New arms, new legs. Just be a machine, bro. Hashtag TSS coming soon. Self-refining discussions, physical, mental, spiritual, and cultural. Okay. In today's crosshairs, why are black people always late? Why are black people / black British people always late?
Damn, son, where'd you find this? Damn.
Okay. Greetings to everyone in the building. Can I just get a one? Can I just get a one just to confirm that the sound is good? Hopefully it should be crystal clear as I'm fully hooked up, fully plugged in into the Skynet. Appreciate it. Salute to Neo 100. Salute to you. Okay, this is a very important topic that we need to get through. Okay, and it's very much so in line with self-refinement, particularly the cultural panel, right? Now, I already see some of you in the chat, saying a few things about my timing. And hey, you're correct. Yeah. I am not on time, quote unquote. Okay. But you have to understand, man. And you know what I noticed? A lot of the people complaining are the ones that never ever show any type of support. I mean, I appreciate your commentary, but you never really show the real higher tier support, but you're already complaining, right? For you, this is a free stream. This is a free service for you to get your drink and kick back and relax. This is a free service. You're not paying for anything. So I'm flabbergasted by your surprise, yeah? But look, in reality, I've had a long-ass day, and I'm trying to present and prepare a noteworthy and informative live stream. So, of course, I can't always, as someone who has a life, I can't always just be here in a flash with everything down packed like that. No, unfortunately not. Okay, so hey, you can clown me all you want. I can take it and appreciate it, but that's just the reality. Okay, I'm still one of the most consistent, believe it or not, streamers out here. Okay, at least when I say I'm going to do something in the hour, it's going to be done in the hour. But again, I appreciate all the preparation that's needed, the talking points, the articles, the video reactions, all of that needs to be prepared. The connections needs to be there, so I hope you can appreciate that. It's not easy. Okay, it's not easy. This is a live production. Anything can go wrong, so yeah. It's pure jokes. But salute to everyone in the building, man. Good to have you in the building. As promised, I know we did a stream last night with the great Diego Ife, but as promised, we're gonna, I'm a loyal, faithful type of guy. So I keep to my word. Tuesdays, Fridays, today is Friday. We need to stream about this. And this is very important. In today's crosshairs, why are black people always late? Okay. So tonight, we are going to actually do something that I don't really do that often. We're going to react to a YouTube video. Okay. And this video came to my attention earlier on in the day by this old British man, this old white guy. Some of you know him, right? So we're going to kind of listen to some segments of his view as to what he calls African time, colored people time, black people time, okay? As I thought it would be quite compelling. You know what I mean? But yeah, because of that reaction, I would say that this stream is not for the faint of heart. It's not for sensitive souls. You see, in reality, quote unquote, white people are absolutely not allowed to address these types of issues. Right? So, of course, you will get people, salute to this man. At least he will show his face and he's kind of out and proud about how he thinks. But in most cases, it's an avatar. Just like as I'm presented today, is an avatar, a guy in the dark with all these kind of crazy views. But in my opinion, for the fact that people can't come out and say it in public means that this actually makes Black people even more sensitive to this type of critique. You know, and this channel is about self-improvement in the classical sense, which to me basically means having self-awareness to identify flaws, be it behavioral, character-based, skill set-based, acuity, intelligence, physicality, and then from there drafting a plan to refine, galvanize, and improve upon these flaws. You know what I mean? Why do all that? You know, some people actually ask, why go through all the trouble of doing all of that work and thinking about all of this stuff? Well, I mean, it's for personal success, right? Financial success. You know, for a Black British person, if he or she is going to want to be employed, 8 times out of 10, that boss is going to be white. Okay, that's just the reality. As an ethnic minority, you know, it is what it is. As a 4% minority, and that 4% is only just for England, by the way, is most likely much smaller UK wide. You know, so with that in mind, I don't think that we can afford to have certain negative stereotypes hovering above our heads that might actually impact our economy. You know, sometimes before we even open our mouths, right? Sometimes before we get the opportunity to prove people wrong, to come in to be interviewed and, you know, to kind of state your claim, right? Because of certain stigma, you might not even get that opportunity. So today's stream and this topic, while we can giggle and laugh about it, as I did, it's very deep actually to me. It's very, very important because it is a symbolic gesture in a way of how, you know, Black people as a whole can be viewed if we just keep it 100. You know, punctuality is obviously very important for everything. Time is the most valuable resource. So, you know, if people are not treating time with the respect and attention it deserves, then there's going to be massive problems, right? You know, so a question to the chat, to everyone who's made it. I'm going to come through the chat in a sec, but let me give you a question. If you can answer what you think, okay? Is it racist for a white person to observe quote unquote CP time, aka African time, aka Black people time? Is it racist for a white person to bring that up and to kind of identify that, hey, it kind of looks like you guys are, you know, you always kind of run late. You're never really early. You're never really on time. Like, is it racist to point it out? I'm curious to know what you think in the chat, man. Salute to everyone in the building. As you answer, I'm going to give a roll call to everyone who's been, you know, I appreciate you joining tonight. You could be anywhere in the world, but you came here, and I really appreciate that. JM Talks channel was the first one in. Salute to JM Talks channel. He says, I'm on time. Absolutely. Our fellow Badger over there, on time, making a point of it. Salute to JM Talks, the first one in the building. And we've got Aaron B in the building. Salute to Aaron B. It's a mad thing, sad thing with Aaron B. We got Diego Harry, aka Diego Ife in the building. Salute to Diego Ife. We did a great stream last night. Check it out. I hope you've seen it. Gerald All on the building. He says, Nat West Bank and Nigel Farage, what do they have in common? Great question. Great question. Because we're going to come into this first of all. Okay. Before we go into the Black people time stuff and the video reaction, we're going to go into this because I think, you know, often news of this caliber, economics, financial, I think a lot of us tend to, you know, not really concern ourselves with it. So I think it's important to bring this up, you know, and it's something that actually affects all of us or could affect all of us, you know. So I'm gonna bring that up in a sec. We got Neo 100 in the building. Salute to you in the building. We got Dan in the building. Says, why do the lives always start late? We got to wait for free intros. I think that means, listen, again, preparation, Most important thing is that while I appreciate everyone in the live stream right now, the most viewers will be after it's aired. So I need to, you think, I know a lot of people just think a live stream is just someone chatting away and saying random things, but actually there is a method to this, right? Or at least in my case, I want at least to put in as much information as is useful, right? So I think that's important. Speak of information, actually, at some point in the stream, we're gonna read a article which advises what you should do if you're running late. And I think this article is mainly addressing if you're running late for work, for your employment, what you should do. So it looks like a 6 bullet point of what you should do if you're running late. So again, I'll try to keep this informative, useful, right? So salute to Dandan in the building. Who else is in the building? KB Jones in the building. He says, yo, salute to you. Good to have you in the building, sir. And we got J. Lou in the building. Salute to you. Some usual suspects here. Let's see. Who else is in the building? Who else? Salute to everyone. Online account in the building. Salute to you. Okay, we've got the usual suspects and some new guys in the building. I appreciate all of you coming through. Okay. So again, before we go into the main topic, we need to address the initial partial topic. Okay, and this is the issue with NatWest Bank or other banks in general and a fellow by the name of Nigel Farage. Okay, so some of you I appreciate are not from the UK, or you're probably from the UK but don't care about politics. But Nigel Farage is the politician, and basically a bank called NatWest here in the UK has closed the accounts, the personal accounts of this individual, right? So that's very important. So essentially, Nigel Farage is basically a right-wing politician, and a lot of the obviously leftists will be irritated by his typical stance and viewpoints. Is this enough to get your bank account closed? Is that good? Is that fair? Is that right? Should banks be allowed to close personal accounts or maybe even business accounts based on one's political views, personal opinions, affiliations, alignments? Is that right? I appreciate that's another question. Let me see if people have been answering the first question. If it's racist for non-black people to observe CP time. Let's see if anyone's in the building. Let's see if anyone's answered. JM saying no. Okay. J. Lou says a lot of black people are late, Spanish, etc. Not a black thing. Okay. He's saying a lot of people are late, Spanish, etc. Not a black thing. Appreciate that. It's good observation. KB Jones says, is it racist? It may be prejudice / racist in the expectation that you're going to be late. However, if a black person, especially a black man, is consistently late, then they are contributing to the stereotype. That's a great point. Great point. Let's see. Okay, and to the second question, I'm seeing JM Talk saying, not fair at all. It's not fair to get your bank account closed based upon your, political leanings, your stance on life and, the environment. Imagine getting your bank closed because you don't agree that global warming is a thing. Imagine that. That's worrying. I agree. Okay, so let's get into it. Appreciate everyone. So again, to extend that question, if you, for example, don't co-sign with celebrations like Pride, right? Something that I've covered in a few live streams ago, or maybe even Black History Month. If you don't align with Black History Month, is that enough to judge you in terms of your belief system? And is that enough to get your bank account closed? Right? And should bank accounts or should banks have that power? Because when you think about it, we know how important it is to have a bank account, right? You're gonna need a bank account if you want to buy a home, if you want to lease a car, if you're renting a flat. I mean, do you need a bank account to get into school or uni? I can't remember, but we live in a society where you need a bank account to do many things, right? So first of all, let's understand who Nigel Farage is. I'm not gonna labor for you too long. Just gonna bring up a basic info grab. Okay, we can read along. Let's see. Let me just share the screen here. I'll share the window here. I'll bring that up. Okay, that's up. Okay, we've got one article displaying. Let me just change the background for you guys so it's nice and static. Okay, that's good. And let's see, who is Nigel Farage? Where is our... Okay, perfect. It's Nigel Farage, okay? Is a British broadcaster and former politician who was leader of the UKIP party. So that's the UK Independence Party from 2006 to 2009, etc., etc. He was the leader of the Brexit party. So basically, he's pro-Brexit. So for those of you who might not know, Brexit was a movement, if we can call it that, that was to ensure that Britain cuts ties with mainland Europe in terms of, certain trade agreements and other kind of connections and links, right? He spearheaded that. He was pro-Brexit. Okay, so a quick grab of what the UKIP party is. UKIP Independence, the UK Independence Party, that's what it stands for, is a Eurosceptic, right-wing populist political party in the UK. The party reached its greatest level of success in the mid-2010s when it gained 2 members of parliament and was the largest party representing the UK in the European Parliament. Okay, so that's really the information, the main information we need, right-wing. And of course, when certain people hear right-wing, they think terrible person, probably racist, probably prejudiced, ethno-state wanting, no blacks allowed having, no Muslims, that we people think like that, right? And I think we've got a snapshot of some of his policies when he was leading that party UKIP. Okay, so just a quick snapshot of what it was back in 2015. He wanted, for example, to set up an independent migration control commission, which would set the number and type of highly skilled migrants to be admitted to the UK through an Australian-style point system. Okay, so he's basically anti-immigration, or at least wants to resist immigration. I'm not sure if it's simply illegal immigration. Another policy is that EU citizens would be treated the same as workers from the rest of the globe and would have to apply for the highly skilled migrant visa. So, basically all the other Europeans can't come here and chill just because they're Europeans. They get treated in the same way someone from Asia, someone from Africa would be treated, right? Another point, unskilled migrants to be banned from entering the UK for an initial 5-year period, subject to regular reviews by government. Okay, another one, foreign students and asylum seekers will not be included in restrictions. Okay, so, we kind of hear this as a very popular talking points, anti-immigration, right? So, but I want to know, those viewpoints, is it enough to get a man's bank account deleted? I think for me, Nigel Farage always comes across as annoying. He has that style about him, pretentious. I definitely don't align with his opinions, right? As a descendant of immigrants to this country, obviously it's kind of it's working against me. But at the same time, speaking about immigration, man, and I've said this a few times before, I'm also sensitive to rampant immigration. I think anyone who's a citizen of any country should have that same point of view, right? Because many examples, many situations where an immigrant who might be deemed as in dire need, in dire straits, who might get put ahead of certain benefits that you are entitled to receive as a citizen. So a foreigner, an immigrant, might get certain services before you, the citizen, does. I think that is not good for in any nation, right? So yeah, I'm not definitely not pro illegal immigration. With regards to standard immigration, do I believe that it's a big problem? I need to refresh my memory on the numbers, but when I see the numbers, I don't think it's a big deal. I think a lot of these right-wing leaning people, commentators, YouTubers, they are riding along with the shock value that it gets, right? Putting crazy images out there of Muslims in hijabs, just really dehumanizing people, right? I don't think it's that bad, you know. But personally, I don't know about you guys. Personally, I want to live in a world where, personal opinions won't F up your livelihood, right? I don't know about you guys, with regards to, I'll say this many times, people with prejudice, with personal biases, some might call them racist. Like, I'm happy that everyone has their opinion. I'm not trying to appease people. I'm not trying to make people see my point of view. I don't need people to love me and to, I don't need, people should be entitled to their own point of view. And I think when you try to silence people, that empowers them even more. Okay, so let's quickly see what happened with regards to NatWest as well. So NatWest Bank, the CEO, the CEO resigned because of this debacle with Mr. Nigel Farage and his bank account. Okay, so the chief executive of NatWest, one of Britain's biggest banks, left her job on Wednesday after discussing personal details of a client, the populist politician Nigel Farage, with a journalist amid a furor over financial institutions' power to refuse customers for their political views. Okay, the bank said Alison Rose was leaving by mutual consent. Okay, they say it is a sad moment, said the bank's chairman, Howard Davies. NatWest shares fell more than 3% in trading Wednesday on the London Stock Exchange. Okay, so this is big stuff that's happened. Okay. Rose's departure came after days of news stories sparked when Farage complained that his bank account had been shut down because the banking group didn't agree with his political views. Okay, so Nigel Farage, as we've discussed, is a right-wing talk show presenter, former leader of the pro-Brexit UKIP, the UK Independence Party, said his account with the private bank Coutts, owned by NatWest Group, had been shut down unfairly. The BBC ran a story based on an anonymous source at the bank saying the account was closed because Farage did not meet Coutts' £1 million borrowing requirement. Farage then published documents he had obtained from the bank showing that officials discussed his financial affairs, but also the reputational damage associated with keeping him as a customer. Okay, the document said Farage was seen as xenophobic and racist and considered by many to be a disingenuous grifter. Grifter alert, So yeah, right, that is the crux of what happened. And I think it's very important to bring up because, man, I think we're moving into dangerous territory when banks have the power to close your accounts based on what you think. You know, but it seems like someone said in the chat, it seems like, with this CEO resigning, it seems like, Farage has come out on top. And I obviously don't align with many of this guy's views, but I think, what can I say? I think that's fair. A person should be allowed to have their views and their bank account. Financial institutions shouldn't be allowed to judge you based on your political leanings, man. I can appreciate credit score rating system, how you handle your money, who you're borrowing from, what debt are you in. But because of your views, I think that's crazy. Okay, so I just felt it's very important to bring that up, something to really think about. Yeah. And hey, how can I forget, man? Of course, this is also going to be a call-in stream. I know I'm quite long-winded right now, but it's going to be a call-in stream, or as in a call-in show. So anyone is able to come in and air their viewpoints if they wish to. And right now the link for that is in the chat. Okay, I should have pinned it to the description, but again, the preparation stuff gets a bit, so many things to do. But yeah, what do you guys think about that? James Talks says very crazy. Turning into a social credit system. Absolutely. This is that in training, right? So all you guys in the chat as well, man, all those YouTube channels that you're watching, just know that it's being recorded wherever you're going. Some of you are crazy enough to watch certain YouTube channels under your workplace Wi-Fi connection without knowing that everything you do via their connection can be traced. So with this type of power that certain institutions seem to have, you need to be wary of that. But I'm not saying it's right. It's wrong, right? Your viewpoint shouldn't determine whether or not you are liable to maintain a bank. I think that's crazy. Okay, so let me see what you're saying in the chat. Funny enough, man, there was a UK bank by the name, I think it was called Dave Bank, the Bank of Dave. So this guy who had a rags to riches tale, he basically came up, and for this reason, he made this bank, to support anyone, regardless of your personal kind of leanings and stuff like that. The Bank of Dave, So check it out. Just curious, anyone in the building, banks with Monzo? Very popular London bank. Who knows about Monzo? But yeah, that's the Nigel Farage story. But now we're gonna go to the main the main event of this stream. Okay, appreciate you, James Talks. I see James Talks in the building. Again, if anyone wants to join in, link to the panel is in the chat. I'll post it again. If anyone wants to have their say in a bit. Okay, I'm just gonna run through this part. I think this is the key part. This is the main event. Okay, so actually, let's just bring it up. Where is it? So this guy. Okay, who knows about this guy? Who knows about this guy? Okay, we're gonna briefly react to what he says in this video. Again, it came out today, and it's something that caught my mind. And in a way, it's very sad because I think a lot of what he says, a lot of you guys will agree with, and a lot of you guys have already joked about, i.e. black people time, colored people time, African time, right? A disclaimer though, before I play this video, I don't ally with the majority of this guy's views in any way or fashion. I think he is obviously very prejudiced, and he makes consistent videos primarily on black people. So he comes across as someone who has a bone to pick with black people, right? But still, in the same vein, I don't want this guy to be silenced. I don't want anyone with their views to be cancelled. I think, again, it's important to allow people to air their views. You know, when it comes to racist / prejudiced views, as long as it's not institutionalized, then every average Joe out there is entitled to have their prejudice. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't care what an old man who's, you know, he might be in heaven in a few years soon. Touch wood. I hope that doesn't happen. Okay. But basically, everyone should be entitled to their views. But fair use. Let's hear part by part what this guy has to say. We can't play everything under the fair use protocol, but we'll see and stop at points that might be important. Okay? Fair use. Firstly, please press a 2 if the sound is okay from the video. If you can hear him fine, please press a 2. Uh-oh. Can you hear that? Press a 2 if you're here, and if you can hear the video okay, please. Damn, no sound? Okay, 1 second. My bad. Let me fix this. Appreciate that, KB Jones and Jesse, JM Talks. My bad. Let me see how to hook up. What do I need to do, man? Let me scratch my noggin for a sec. Where is the sound coming through? It's coming through here. Okay, let's see if I take this. See if I put that there. Can you hear that? Press a 2 if you can hear it now. Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning. Apologies for the delay. Still no sound? You can't hear that? God damn, what the hell is happening? Okay, appreciate that. Thanks. Appreciate that, KB Jones. Okay, let me fix this because this is very important. Let me fix this. Let me think. Okay, it's running through there. Built in. G.
The strategy.
How about now?
Way of demonstrating power over or disregard of the ordinary conventions of life, Western society.
Can you hear that now? Is there sound? By the way, please do like the stream if you're involved so far, please do like the stream. Comment your thoughts in the chat, always good. Commenting below the video once it's aired, always good. If you are so inclined, feel free to super chat. I really do appreciate all the support. But let me know if sound is good. Apologies for the delay.
Either in educational settings such as schools, colleges and universities, or in the workplace, will be well aware of the fact that punctuality tends to be less strictly observed than is routinely the case with those belonging to other ethnicities. This habitual late...
Matter of fact, let's speed it up a little bit, man, because I know this guy.
This is not caused because some people are too poor to be able to afford a wristwatch. It is rather a deliberate strategy, a way of demonstrating power over or disregard of the ordinary conventions of life in Western society. It is, in short, intentional discourtesy.
Okay, so I think that's a good point to discuss first of all. He's basically saying that, you know, quote unquote, some ethnic groups purposely go out of their way to be late, for example, out of basically trying to not be white, right? Being anti-white, anti-European, right? So trying to basically you know, basically go against the grain of the society. Does anyone agree with that? Is that a component of colored people time? Like just basically basically being opposed to quote unquote whiteness.
This is quite a weird idea, and white liberals are keen to excuse it. Explanations offered for this inability to arrive anywhere on time sometimes involve colonialism, and needless to say, slavery. The idea being that in the days of slavery, black people were obliged to get up to labour in the fields at the crack of dawn under the threat of violence from white.
Oh, so he's linking lateness, you know, unpunctuality in black people with slavery. Okay, so he's basically almost implying that it's something that is that we have kind of evolved with. Right? Does anyone agree with that? You know, I think he's citing these talking points that some people claim these things. But let's continue.
The tardiness we see now is a reaction to this and subconscious rejection of white power and timekeeping. Then too, turning up on time for work or classes has been defined as an aspect of white supremacism. In the description to this video, I give a link to a piece from the Stanford Social Innovation Review, which expounds this theory. It is one which has become very popular as a way of excusing black lateness. The article is headed as follows: "The bias of professionalism. Standards professionalism has become coded language for white favoritism in workplace practices that more often than not privilege the values of white and Western employees and leave behind people of colour. We are told of the narrative of white supremacy that underpins professionalism today, playing out in the hiring, firing, and day-to-day management of workplaces around the world." Under the heading Timelines, we learn that, where are we now? How people manage their time in relation to work plays a huge role in their success. Research from the 2017 Career Builder survey in the United States, for example, found that 41% of all employees are terminated due to continual lateness to work.
Okay, so he's linking lateness, late attendance to work with exclusions, right? Being fired, okay? Which I think is, you know, it makes sense. Again, businesses running on the clock to be competitive across the whole world. It makes sense that punctuality is highly praised and valued, right?
In other words, turn up on time for work or you're likely to be sacked. Most of us probably already knew this, and we don't need to read an academic journal to discover that if we don't turn up on time for work every day, we're liable to get the HEVO.
Okay.
Within black and immigrant communities, there is often a deep ancestral connection to polychronic cultural orientation. Some people of colour push against this by adopting a monochronic orientation, but many hold on to their polychronic work style. As a result, they may lose their jobs more often in a culture biased against their norms. Polychronic does mean many different ways of time.
So that is that what he's talking about is apparently something I've just learned today. Chronemics. Okay, chronemics. Okay. Chronemics is an anthropological, philosophical, and linguistic subdiscipline that describes how time is perceived, coded, and communicated across a given culture. It is one of the several subcategories to emerge from the study of nonverbal communication. According to the Encyclopedia of Special Education, chronemics includes time orientation, understanding and organization, the use of and reaction to time pressures, the innate and learned awareness of time, by physically wearing or not wearing a watch, arriving, starting, and ending late or on time. A person's perception and values placed on time plays a considerable role in their communication process. The use of time can affect lifestyles, personal relationships, and work life. Across cultures, people usually have different time perceptions, and this can result in conflict between individuals. Time perceptions include punctuality, interactions, and willingness to wait. Three main types of time in chronemics are interactive, conceptual, and social. Okay, so this is something new to me, but hey, let's see if there is a point. So basically, this is describing or expressing that different cultures across the world, for whatever reason, run or are in tune to time or sensitive to time with various degrees, varying degrees, right? So he mentioned one of these time systems, polychronic and monochronic. So let me quickly go over them just so we know before we continue the video. A monochronic time system means that things are done one at a time and time is segmented into small, precise units. Under this system, time is scheduled, arranged, and managed. The United States considers itself a monochronic society. This perception came about during the Industrial Revolution. Okay. Many Americans think of time as a precious resource not to be wasted or taken lightly. You would think every human being thinks like this, but I digress. As communication scholar Edward T. Hall wrote regarding the Americans' viewpoint of time in the business world, quote, "The schedule is sacred." Hall says that for monochronic cultures such as the American culture, time is tangible and viewed as a commodity where time is money. Okay, we've heard that expression before. Or time is wasted. Okay, John Ivers, a professor of cultural paradigms, agrees with Edward Hall by stating, in the market sense, monochronic people consume time. The result of this perspective is that monochronic cultures place a paramount value on schedules, tasks, and quote unquote getting the job done. Powerful stuff, right? Food for thought. So that's monochronic time. Monochronic time orientation is very prominent in North European cultures, Italy, Greece, Spain, England, and the Scandinavian countries. For example, a business person from the USA has a meeting scheduled. They then grow frustrated because they are waiting an hour for their partner to arrive. This is an example of monochronic time-orientated individual running in with a polychronic time-orientated individual. Okay, so the monochronic time schedule or perception of time, right, is linked with the USA and Northern European cultures, the Mediterranean, basically Europe, right? Okay. So now we go on to the polychronic time. Okay, a polychronic time system means several things can be done at once. In polychronic time systems, a wider view of time is exhibited and time is perceived in large fluid sections. Examples of polychronic cultures are Latin American, African, Arab, South Asian, and Native American cultures. These cultures' view on time can be connected to quote unquote natural rhythms, the earth, and the seasons. So basically, this culture don't typically work by the clock or to the clock. They work on quote unquote natural rhythms, perhaps how they feel, the environment, the seasons. How do I feel today? These analogies can be understood and compared because natural events can occur spontaneously and sporadically, just like polychronic time-oriented people and polychronic time-oriented cultures. A scenario would be an Inuit working in a factory in Alaska. The superiors blow a whistle to alert for break times, etc. The Inuit are not fond of that method because they determine their times by the sea tides. That's quite interesting. They determine their times by the sea tides. How long it takes place and how long it lasts. In polychronic cultures, time spent with others is considered a task and of importance to one's daily regime. Polychronic cultures are much less focused on the preciseness of accounting for time and more on tradition and relationships rather than on tasks. Polychronic societies have no problem being late for an appointment if they are deeply focused on some work or in a meeting that ran past schedule. Because the concept of time is fluid and can easily expand or contract as need be. As a result, polychronic cultures have a much less formal perception of time. They are not ruled by precise calendars and schedules. So this is what the old fellow is quoting, okay? Chronemics. Okay, food for thought, very interesting, the Industrial Revolution sparking this discipline, right, to get things done on time, to value time as a resource versus living based on rhythms and how you feel, right? Very interesting stuff. So that's what he's quoting here. What do you guys think about that? Does that sound kind of believable? Do you believe different cultures run on different kind of, or are sensitive to time in different ways? Press 1 if you think that's true. Press a 2 if you disagree. Press 1 basically if you agree with chronemics. People, different cultures have a different idea or perception of time passing, or press 2 if you disagree. Interesting stuff. But let's continue.
Following from it means everyone keeping to the same time. You see how it is. If a black guy keeps arriving late in the morning or takes longer than other people for lunch, it's because he has a deep ancestral connection to polychronic cultural orientation.
This guy always trying to crack a joke. Always trying to crack a joke. He surely gets off of what he discussed. And, I'm happy to see it. At least, it's good to see someone happy doing what they do.
That should help his fellow workers get less irritated with it, goofing off so often. I'm guessing that I might be accused, as usual, of racism at this point. Am I saying that all black people turn up late all the time? No, I'm not at all. Some black people don't turn up late, and they're very punctual, and they're the ones that are likely to get on and get promoted and do well, whether at school or work. But an awful lot of black people make a thing of lateness. It is a way of drawing attention to themselves and making them different from everyone.
Drawing attention to themselves. You see, while, a lot of guys will see this guy and just think, yeah, he's a racist. And some people will go even far as to say, don't listen to his opinions. He's a racist or right off everything that he says. But again, I kind of bring you to the fact that a lot of black people ourselves, unfortunately, kind of accept that there is this reality of, black people in general receiving time, sensitivity towards time is often different from others. Right. And I think that his point of black people making a thing of it, we all laugh at CP time, black people time. It's a joke now. And it's to a point where some people, and I agree with that point, some people make a deal to be fashionably late. right? And that's a pet peeve of mine. You know, I'll go into my thoughts a bit towards after this video, you know, personal experiences and why this is bad in general. Okay, but let's.
Everybody else. They joke among each other about this. If somebody of Caribbean heritage is making an appointment with a friend whom he particularly wants to be on time, people say something like, that's 8 GMT, you know, not BPT. BPT stands for Black People's Time, and it's an expression devised not by white supremacists, but by Caribbeans themselves. Africans in Britain have a similar way of joking, referring to the matter. They talk of African time or sometimes Lagos time. The effect.
What I realize about this man is that, you know, you can tell that he's probably, you know, spent a lot of time around Africans, Black people in general, you know, to know about Lagos time. And I know he knows about, you know, some quirks of certain ethnicities, groups, tribes, right? He has some information. I think that's his appeal to a lot of people, you know. And this is why I don't know if he's just doing the whole grifter thing, right? I know he has a few books that he's trying to sell, if he actually believes what he's saying, or if he's just feeding the mob what they want to hear, you know, because it's not usually the case where someone who is you know, who is well learned to be, you know, to be so ignorant, at least with other topics, not particularly with this topic.
So this will be long-lasting and wholly injurious to the interests of Black people themselves. Black people arriving late for lessons in some schools is such a common occurrence that it's hardly remarked upon. They roll in 10 minutes after the lesson started, missing teaching time and disrupting the lesson for those who were there on time. Because they don't arrive quietly and just slip in and apologise. They make pre-production, talking and laughing as they enter the room. Any rebuke will be met with baleful looks and sucking of teeth.
See, he knows about kissing your teeth. He knows about all of that. So you can tell he spent a lot of time amongst the so-called Black people.
This might have a bearing on academic underachievement among Black students in Britain and the United States. The practice, if continued in the workplace, will hardly recommend an employee for promotion and can indeed lead to dismissal. None of what I've said here is intended to suggest that this apparent inability to be punctual is some inherent characteristic of Black people of African heritage. It is not. It represents a rejection of white European values, and it's entirely cultural. It is indicative of a desire to rebel against a majority culture and demonstrate independence from the mores of Europe and Northern America. Unfortunately, the only people likely to be adversely affected by such behaviour are Black people themselves.
Okay, so once again, fair use. But that's his video, right? And, you know, what are you saying in the chat? Do you think this guy is what he said? I appreciate the earlier bits had no sound, but do you think what he says is completely wrong? Or is there a hint of truth to what he's saying? Or is he totally right in what he's saying? What do you think in the chat? Okay. I'm gonna open up the stream in a bit. So if anyone wants to have their say, the link's in the chat. Okay. If anyone wants to talk on it, the link's in the chat. But I just want to talk about what I've seen. Okay. And salute to everyone in the building. Please do like the show. We're 1 hour in. Okay. I appreciate you being here. Again, you can be anywhere in the world, but I do appreciate you being here. Okay. So to what he said about Black people taking pride in running late, I think he's spot on. You know, and it's distasteful for me to kind of want to agree with a guy who I know has alternative, you know, inclinations, you know, but yeah, in my experience, there's been a lot of Black people taking pride in running late. Man, I remember one time it was a birthday of mine, right? I invited my family to come over to my home, very nice home. Come over, no party or anything, just come over. I just like a quiet thing, family gathering, right? And then one family member, it's very memorable to me. One family member came when it was like basically 15 minutes left of our time left, right? So like something like 6 hours late on my special day, family member, right? Didn't have to do anything. It was a weekend, just show up. Same city, just down the road, just show up. And, when I kind of, showed some annoyance to that, the member didn't feel like anything was wrong. Right? Like, for me, I don't know if, we speak about the what's it called? The polychronic time system, the monochronic time system. I think in reality, people are a mixture of both. Everyone doesn't have, a ticking clock in their head. Sometimes you feel like doing certain things based on how your mood is or, what your intuition is calling for. Sometimes, typically during the work week, you are, working to a clock, you are working to a watch, right? I think people are a mix of both, but there is a level of entitlement with that type of demeanor, right? Showing up fashionably late. We can go into dates. We can talk about dates. That might have to be a question. Who's on time the most? Black women or non-black women? Actually, look, let me get out of there. I'm not even going to go there because I know insecurities will just reach fever pitch. People will start crying and moo, but it's something to mull over, right? You plan a date, you're probably paying for the whole thing. You're probably, so much work went into it, so much pressure. And you're there wherever you are, whatever you've done, and then someone is showing up an hour late with a smile on their face, not even apologetic, sweating, like looking like they were rushing, looking like they were running, to get there. For me, it's a sign of disrespect. And I think when some people don't perceive it as disrespect, that's wrong, particularly for the fact that it can bleed into your work life, your business, how you make money. Many jobs, and I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Many jobs I've seen people, black people, late to work in the morning, late from lunch in the afternoon, early to go home in the evening. So when I see patterns like that, I don't think this is a cultural phenomenon. I just think it's down to laziness, a lack of discipline, bad or poor character. Because again, I think everyone is not running to a clock like a machine. I think these values are installed in you at developing ages, right? Respecting time, discipline. You show up late, you don't get rewarded, right? Versus a culture where you can show up late and you still be treated like nothing happened. Like the biggest thing for me, and I've said this in many videos many years ago, is that these issues like colored people time, black people time, whatever you want to call it, it ends up making us black folk look like children. We look childlike. And look, polychronic, what's the other one? Monochronic, is it? Monochronic. These are interesting studies to be sure, right? It's interesting perspective. But we're talking about, especially for us, quote unquote, Black British, we're talking about a society. If we come from a society that's quote unquote monochronic, that runs on time and runs to schedules, we should have been learned in that way, right? Because this is the environment that we've been in. We've been to primary school, we've been to secondary school. We know the time schedule that is expected of us, right? So I think it's not down to cultural or evolutionary traits, but it's just down to a lack of discipline, man. It's down to a lack of discipline. And this is why the self-improvement, as I define it, is very important. Because to a lot of people, hearing this type of stuff is very painful. You know, change is very painful. A lot of the time we want to resist it because we take comfort in our beliefs. You know, that's why a lot of Black people get assailed and assaulted, called raccoons and badgers, because you're not following the predetermined path that the people, quote unquote, has made for you. You know what I mean? That's why we go hard in Self-Refinement City. Link in the description below if you want to know about that. You know, imagine if transport always ran late. You know, there is a reason why the Japanese, from what I know, the bullet trains over there, always on time to a T. I think there is a correlation to, you know, those logistics and the respect of time to their economy and their health as a society. You know what I mean? Imagine if transport was always late. What would be the cost of on the economy? You know, imagine you're at war. you're that mono. You know, you're the polychronic culture going to war against a monochronic culture, a culture who's running by the clock, right? Very efficient, right? And then you're the culture that's just waiting for how you feel, right? The ammunitions and rations are coming in late. You're done, right? Your people, your culture go extinct. And I think to some degree, this might have been a situation that has already happened, right? We got books like Guns, Germs, and Steel. Did I say it the right way? Guns, Germs, and Steel. You know, that kind of speak about this, you know, whole idea of a docile people that live in comfort, that doesn't have to be extremely critical or aggressive. You know, there's many theories on these ideas. You know, but I think it's very important that, as particularly Black British people, as you know, if you agree with these polychronic, monochronic kind of systems, well, okay, we might have come from one of these systems, but we now find ourselves in another system. It's very important to be well versed in this system. And listen, I'm not talking like I know it all. I'm not talking like I'm always punctual. No, I'm not. I don't think anyone's always punctual, but at least having the mentality that, you know, at least having some sense of shame when you're late. You know, and speaking of shame, I know I'm long-winded tonight, but speaking of when you're late, we've got one article that I want to get through before I bring up people to talk about their, you know, their perspective. All right. And this article is going to be about what to do when you're running late. Okay, so just a few bullet points to get through. Right. I remember, man, like stupid talking points. You know, who's ever heard of or who's ever been told that you look like you date white girls? Who's ever been told this? You look like you date white girls. Okay, I can remember many years ago. You know, the person who said this was, you know, I don't even want to kind of, but they were not in good situations. You know, single parent, not Diego Ife says me, not hasn't planned their life as good as they could have, right? You look like you date you look like you date white girls, and part of the reason why I just said, hey, why do you say that? I'm just inquisitive. I'm not offended. I'm just asking, hey, what makes you say that? Well, the response was partly because you're always on time for practice. So this was the sport that I was practicing. You're always on time. You're always here, right? And it's so sad how people have normalized and associated themselves with bad practices, because the you look like you date white girls becomes a backhanded compliment. It's basically saying that you're of good character, you're reliable, you are trustworthy. Maybe you speak well, maybe, you're like, it's messed up. And this is something that I think a lot of black people are not aware of, which is quite sad. Imagine growing up in this haze, in this system where being the opposite of good is your normal, and that is what you expect. You expect an unreliable, untrustworthy, late, tardy, ill-mannered individual. That's what you rate. It's food for thought, and it's very much in line with last night's live stream with Diego Ife about kind of coining what blackness is, because a lot of the times, to be black means to be dysfunctional or to do things that are not conducive to functionality, health, goodness. Again, I know this is not for sensitive souls, but this awareness is very much important, in my humble opinion. But with that being said, man, let's just go through this last article. I know, again, I apologize. I've been long-winded, but this last article about what to do if you're running late. I just found it last minute, actually. I actually used the thumbnail in this article. Last minute, again, preparation. But I found it last minute. I think it's quite interesting. How to be late for work without making your boss mad. So this is more inclined towards work, okay? Saunter into a party an hour behind schedule and you're quote-unquote fashionably late. Do the same thing at work and you could be in trouble, okay? That's the headline. So let's quickly go through the bullet points. However, if you're worried of being late, here are some steps you can take to mitigate your tardiness, okay? I think it should be valuable. Number one, call ahead if you can. If you know you're going to be late, the best thing to do is to call the appropriate parties to let them know. Hafner says. Then enlist someone to cover you if necessary and possible. Okay, so telling you to be proactive, kind of forecast your arrival, let people know. And that's great. That's a great point. Let people know, right? That's the least you can do. You got a phone, let people know that you're running late. Number two, consider the impact of your lateness. Did you miss anything big? If not, it's probably best to avoid making a huge deal about being late. If you were exceptionally late, you may need to move on to an apology letter or email, Hafner says. Another reason you may want to choose this option is if your lateness caused a big problem for the company, such as losing a client. Oof. Number three, apologize. It never hurts to just say sorry. Being late is a part of life, and it's always polite to apologize when it happens. Hafner told Business Insider. Everybody's human and makes mistakes, so own up to yours and move on. If you're concerned that you've really messed up, make the apology in person instead of over email. Now, yes, of course, quote unquote, everybody's human, but one incident is one thing, but a consistent pattern of tardiness is quite another thing, right? I think we can all agree with that. Number four, provide an explanation. If you've got a legitimate explanation, feel free to use it. Just try to sound like you're providing an explanation, not making excuses. That's another key one. No excuses. You know, I woke up late. You know, sometimes, like, whenever I'm late these days, man, if I'm late to anything, I'm just going to be honest. Like, yeah, this is what happened. Because I don't know about everyone else, but for me, I start to panic when I'm running late. Like, it's something that is obviously has a negative response. So I ensure that I'm not late. That's partly why I'm also a motorcyclist. So I'm virtually never late for anything. 5, make it clear that this isn't going to become a habit. It might be a good idea to say something along the lines of, I know that this company's values punctuality, and I will strive to be on time in the future, says Hefner. Okay? So make it clear that this isn't going to become a habit. Important. So it's not consistent. And finally, number 6, be honest. It might be tempting to make up excuses. As a rule of thumb, remember to be honest, Hefner told Business Insider. Integrity is what every company wants. When you lie, you break that trust, and that will upset an employer even more. If you feel like your reasoning is too silly or inappropriate for work, then forego making excuses. Okay, so again, that integrity piece. Integrity. You know, very important stuff. And yeah, like, this should be common knowledge, but I just felt it was important for, you know, there might be someone out there that needs to hear that. Right, but salute to everyone in the building. I appreciate you all. I'm interested to know what you think about this. You know, so I'm going to bring up anyone who wants to come up. Please do like the stream if you enjoyed it. Comment your thoughts. Let me just post the link one more time before I let up JM Talks in the building. You want to come up, express your views on colored people time. Bit of thing, like the article suggests, polychronic, monochronic. You know, something new that I've learned today. Is that a theme? Is there a reason why certain cultures are late? Right? Is there a reason why certain cultures are punctual, always on time? And does this even impact their technological advances? Right? Their efficiency, their advancements as a people? Does it affect that? You know, these are food for thought, interesting ideas that we could discuss. But with that being said, we got JM Talks in the building. How are you doing this evening, JM Talks? You all right?
Well, yeah, I'm good. I'm on my last day of quarantine for the bug.
I think you're cutting out a little bit.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Give me a minute. All right, can you hear me now?
Say that again one more time just to confirm.
Hello? Is that better?
No, I think the audio is not good. In the chat, what do you think? Is the audio good on JM side? Let me know.
What's going on here?
Oh, perfect. That's probably me then, because I just switched devices. Apologies for that, man. It's my bad. My bad.
Always make sure the connection is, it's primed. But
Your connection is primed.
Yeah, I always make sure my connection's good.
Hey, good to hear, man. That's a good example. You know, my bad.
It's cool.
Everyone's saying it's good, so my bad. But how are you doing this evening, bro?
Well, I'm on my last day of quarantine for the bug.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So you recovered well?
Yeah, I'm recovered. So tomorrow I'm pretty much getting back into the swing of things. But yeah, I ain't gonna lie, the live streams has been very helpful because my whole routine is absolutely messed up because of this bug. But this is what it is.
Man. I aim to please with these streams, man. That's why I want to be consistent. I want to, just keep doing this, man. Because I myself, like these time systems, I'm learning as well. It's good to commune with everyone, like-minded people, it's very important, in my opinion.
But time.
But yeah, let me not just throw you. Let me not just throw you in the middle, man. So first of all, I guess I mean we can go anywhere. We can go with the NatWest thing if you want, but I think with the time thing, with what this guy says, do you think he's half right, half wrong, or do you think he's mostly right, or do you think he's mostly wrong?
He's he's actually right.
Mm.
I do listen to his channel sometimes.
Mhm.
I take the emotion out of it and actually look at some of the stuff he says, right? Actually, a lot of the stuff he's actually saying is actually factual if you actually do some of the research. But there's certain things there's certain things I disagree with. There tends to be this leaning of, let's say, it's all negative and all bad, but
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it sounds like he's trying too hard to,
yeah,
appease his crowd and black people doing this and doing that.
yeah. But yeah, he is spot on about the time thing. I've experienced it for as many years. I would say the time when I was most unpunctual was, well, I'll probably say my college days, but that was to do with transportation, and that's solely to blame on me. But as I got older, I would say in my 20s, I nipped not being on time in the bud. I would say maybe 18. I would say around that time, because I created a concept where, as I got older, I realized that, hey, look, time is actually the true currency, not money. I actually remember once when I was going to a gym. This was when I was like a personal trainer, doing a little bit of freelance stuff. And there was a gym called Easy Gym in West Croydon, right? I don't think it no longer is that, I remember. And I used to train with my friends, right? And there was one particular individual. It was like a group training session, and he was black, and I knew him personally, and I said, "Look, this is the time we need to be." It was 11 a.m. and he lives. He literally lives near the gym, right? And he's not on time, right? I am traveling from flipping Wandsworth to West Croydon, and I'm on time. I literally have to take, what I had to do, right, is I had to take two, it's literally one bus and a train, right, to get to the gym, right, so that we could train, right? And I got there on time. And the reason why is because you just have a routine, schedule your stuff. I can't stress this enough. Like me as well, because I'm autistic and so forth. Routine is very, very important for me, and also time perception. I was always aware of time, and I was always aware of knowing that, hey, I'm going to die. Like that's literally it. Like eventually, I'm going to die. I don't know when that is. Maybe early, maybe later. But I always used to have plans. Like even in my 20s, I had a 7-year plan. And that plan did go very well until the pandemic hit, right? And that was on my tail end of my 20s. So 27, maybe 29, 30 was when I was on the tail of the pandemic. That plan failed. There's nothing much I could really do because it was out of my control. So the thing regarding the black people time is very real. I've been in black businesses.
We didn't even touch on the businesses.
Yep. I've been to college. I remember once when I was doing physiology and anatomy at a college called the City Lit in Aldwych. And basically there was all people. I was the only black person there, right? I got there on time. And then I remember there was this black guy, this dark skinned guy came in, right? And he was like an hour late, and the teacher's face, right, when this was going on, it was frustrated because he was basically holding up the class, right? So those are many examples. There was times where I was in a black business. There there was meant to be transportation. Transportation didn't turn up on time, and we were just late for the event.
Speaking of black
right,
businesses, because that's a great kind of segue. Like,
right,
I mean, we can speak of barbers, Caribbean restaurants, African restaurants coming up now. Maybe even black hair shops, which we discussed, are becoming owned by Asian people, owning like weave shops and sporting waves, Dax, all of that. Like, do you think this poor time management keeping is in line with poor business
yeah,
delivery?
100%. And I'll
Mm,
explain why.
mm,
There was a point where I actually boycotted black barbers altogether, and I actually still have, and I'll explain why. Right?
mm,
This was a time when, I was before, when I was a lot more younger, I would go black barbers. That's the barber thing, right? That's the thing to do. When you're young and black, yeah, you go to a black barber. They're the guys who are the best at dealing with black hair and so forth. All right, cool, right?
mhm,
I remember once where I know that if I don't get to the barber, and there was one time where if I didn't get to the barber at 9 o'clock before it started, right, I had to be the first one there, because if I wasn't the first one there, I know I'm waiting a minimum 1 hour and a half and 2 hours to get a cut,
mm.
right? That's a lot of time, but you got to take into consideration I was young then, and I wasn't really thinking about time like that. When you're young, you're just whatever, innit? Right?
Right.
So when there was one time where I remember I had a lecture. I had to go to, right? I had to do a lecture. It was like a presentation, right? And this was in Vauxhall. And this was to do with autism and so on and so forth, right? And I remember once, right, where I remember I had to wait an hour and a half for a barber, right? This was about an hour and a half for the barber and the black barber, right? So I didn't actually go to the black barber. I went to another shop which was facing Clapham Junction, right? And I had to think, damn, I need to get a haircut quick, right? So I said, you know what? Let me not go to the black barber, right? I go over to another barber in Clapham Junction. This was Turkish Middle Eastern guys, right?
Mhm.
Went in there, right? I said, yeah, I need a haircut, do whatever, cool. First thing opening, 20 minutes straight. I actually got the haircut, right? In 20 minutes straight, the bus stop to the lecture, yeah, was actually opposite the barber. Got on the bus and got to do the lecture on time, right?
Mm.
When I was in a place of, like, let's say, disorganization, because I had to organize myself somehow, right? Because
Mm.
it was just a situation, right? If I went to the black barber, I wouldn't have got to that lecture on time, because I knew deep down it would have took longer. Because when I'm in the black barber, what I see is people just talking, not really bothered about their work. There'll be big TVs there.
Right, right. They'll be
Thing.
watching the game, stopping
Right,
the trim, on the phone,
talking,
like talking with other people. Like,
right.
and then
People be
there's other
walking out.
people that they might just jump in. So there's a bit of corruption. Like, I remember
Yeah,
those days, man. I'm thankful that my current barber, he runs on a schedule, and he's Nigerian, but he runs on a schedule. So I have to call in to book. Saturday 3 p.m. Is that good? Yeah, that's that you're booked. So when I come in, usually maybe just 5-10 minutes delay, but I'll be coming in. But I remember the old school barbers, man. Yeah, waiting 1 hour, 2 hours, people cutting the line, and it's like the unfortunate thing is like, yeah, there's many other barbers, like you said, Turkish, Middle Eastern. I think Romanians are kind of big out here as well. But you just know that typically the black barbers just know, they just work better with black hair, so they get that slick fade, the lineup.
yeah,
My experience is that, like the North African guys, the Middle Eastern guys, they don't quite get it as sharp as black guys do, black barbers. So it's like, because of that, you just have to firm it. You have to and like you said, this is impacting your life. You're
yeah,
wasting when you calculate life, which is what you said is very important. When you calculate life, it's based on the usage of time, how you manage your time every day.
right.
And so if you're spending 2 hours, up to 2 hours waiting for a simple haircut, calculate that for the month, then calculate that for the whole year, and you're spending days waiting
Yep,
for a haircut. It's crazy.
right. And this is another thing as well, is like, regarding the black barber as well, is it's you're just gonna wait. You're gonna have to wait longer, right? And I couldn't afford that, especially when because I was more in the entrepreneurial route in around that time. I was like, yeah, like time is, very, very important when you're in that type of thing, right?
Field, yeah.
So that's really what I would say regarding time. And yeah,
What do you think
time.
of yeah? What do you think of black restaurants though? Like, do you think it's a similar theme with the barbers that like, that? Oh my god, man, the delivery patterns, man. Like, what do you think of it first of all? Like, do you have good experiences or generally bad experiences with black
Be honest
restaurants?
with you, man. I just don't do black. I don't even do black restaurant. I know it sounds bad, but bro. Like, I remember once where I get other people to get me the food, and because I just don't want to wait. Because like, for example, there'll be times where they will say they do have it, but they don't have it, or there'll be times where it's just, but I don't really want to talk about it. I just let people because I'm gonna say some stuff.
No, man, it's a look. It's a consistent theme. Like, using an app, take Just Eat app for example. You've ordered the food and you're happy. You're looking forward to the food. Like, hey, take out tonight. Okay, cool. And then you get a text a few minutes later. No, this is out of stock. This is not here. This is out of stock. This is out of stock. Sometimes if they do have everything in stock, the delivery process. Oh, I couldn't find you, man. I don't know. I was trying to look. It comes late. Sometimes the food is just cold. It's not well prepared. It's like, I think all of these things, especially when it comes to stock, having things available. I think logistics plays a big part of that, right? And that's to planning and organization. And I think if your idea of time is screwed up, that's a service that you will get.
Yep. And for me, I don't really look at skin color. For me, it's really what is the best product that you can give me at this time, right? That's just me. Like, don't get me wrong. If there's something of my interest, I will buy it. I'll put money involved. To be honest, I just look at what can give me the best time, what can be given to me at the quickest, and what is the best in regards of whatever it is that you're basically producing. There are like certain businesses I will like support, but it has to be a good service. I bought, like, for example, I have a friend of mine's. He has a black business himself, and he writes really good books about, it's like imaginary stuff. I'll buy his stuff because it's good, right? Or if I have a friend who wants to who needs my support and it's a good product, I say, hey, you know what? Because I don't like coming off as disingenuous. Like, I'll just buy, like, for example, on YouTube, right? And then you will see like these sponsorship guys, right? And they will say, oh yeah, I use this to yada yada yada.
Right.
Just blatant, like, you just don't use that stuff, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's me.
Real.
Like, I don't like coming off as some fake disingenuous guy. Like, I'm not gonna support something if it doesn't interest me. Right. That's just me.
Facts. Okay, we've got Darth Revan in the building. What's on your mind, bro?
Yes. Let me remember again. Falcon Black, how you doing? You all right?
I can't complain. You're good?
Yeah, good. I see you're enjoying the countryside these days. That's nice as well, and all that stuff.
I appreciate that.
Should get on the motorbike and all that stuff, So
for real.
Yeah. What I'm going to say about this topic is, I think in the beginning, I slept and I woke up. Somebody said something that you have to acknowledge it's not a black thing and all that stuff. You have people from other parts of the world that are like that. But if you look and notice,
what parts of the world would you say have the same kind of qualities?
Part of the Southern Hemisphere, like Southern Hemisphere part of the world, or the global South, or something, or people that exist in where there's a lot of daylight or sun. or something where the sun exists. In Europe, you have Southern Europeans that are like that. It's because people are more expressive when it comes from those parts of the world. Like, let me give you an example. When I went to Germany and all that stuff, I saw how dark things can get very, very quickly as well. Things get very, very dark and all that. So you are forced to kind of wake up very early and get things done. In Sweden, even was by 3 o'clock, it's already dark. So people from the northern hemisphere tend to be more timely, as in you have to wake up early and get things done because we don't have that much daylight. It's a scarcity of daylight. So that kind of transpires into a kind of being very timely and all that stuff. Scarcity of daylight. In the southern hemisphere, there's more daylight. By 9 o'clock, that's when it gets dark. So people, obviously, there's the thing is wake up early and get your job done. That is a norm. But the idea is people feel that they have a longer day. So they take their time with things and they take their time with expressing and all that stuff. So it's an abundance of there's an abundance of daylight. You know, that sensibility. And which is not such a bad thing. Being in an abundant state of mind is a good thing at the end of the day. And it's where people want to be. But it's that difference between scarcity and abundance of daylight or abundance of time that causes people to actually be like this. Do you understand?
For sure. I absolutely understand the kind of the timeline, or the how can I say, the adapting to the environment. That makes a lot of sense. But when it comes to a globalized environment where you're competing with internationally, right? Doesn't that nature or mentality place those people who take the time in that fashion, right, a bit more lax? Doesn't that place them in a very harsh disadvantage versus the people who are on time and organized in that way?
100% it does. And obviously we can explain. That's why even my guy on the other side can understand the reason. You're always trying to explain the reason why things are the way they are. I'm just saying the way they are. I say, yes, of course, we have to explain the reason why they are. Otherwise, yes, 100%, things took this way. But what it shows is that the right pressures have to be in place, or the right pressures or environment has to be in place for people to feel competed, for people to feel under competition, or to feel the need to write. Like we over here, like my guy says, we over here, we have to wake up to that reality. Yes, this may be the way it's changing. This way we are now competing, so we have to rise up and compete. So we can't be doing that. We have to wake up early and compete. We can't be in that state like just have fun, just enjoy and all that. So you can't be. You have to wake up and compete. So we are now we are facing different kind of pressure, but another pressure, especially in Africa and all that kind of stuff. You understand? Especially in Africa, or even for us that are competing in the West, in London, we have to be timely. We have to be the best. We have to be, as black people say, twice as better than the other people as well, and all that stuff. So we have to do all of this and all that.
Okay, that great points again, great points. But I want to quickly jump in. Sorry to cut you, but yeah, with the pressure, do you not feel like, you mentioned Africa, the poverty, the situation, kind of derelict environments? Do you not think that is enough pressure to make, or want to install a sense of command
urgency.
Of time,
urgency? Yeah,
right.
Sense of urgency. Yes. Africa, it's just arrested on halted development and all that kind of stuff, right? The right competitive pressures that are supposed to be emerging or supposed to be happening, completely arrested and hosted. It's not a blame game type of thing and all that stuff. But you do have that situation in play, and you have these leaders that leadership is very important, right? If your leader is like a weak person and it's not courageous and it's a coward and all that kind of stuff, and he's like every man for himself, it makes you not believe, and you will not want to die for that nation. You will not want to feel that they have kept Africans in a state of lull. Africans are in a state of lull, thinking that everything is all right, not realizing, you know what I'm saying? So there's this aspect. So with Africa, if you're going to cut it that way, it's just there's so many variables and so many reasons as well. But I'm just highlighting that as well. But we can look at us over here, like our experience over here, how we've risen up to this challenge and all that stuff. Well, some of us like JM here, how he's risen up to this challenge and competitive pressure. We've risen to rise to that occasion and all that stuff. You know that if you don't wake up early, if you don't do things, you miss out and all that stuff. It's the same thing. Like I went to Germany. Like, why do these people wake up very early? Like, it's really, why are these people so sterile? Everything is just, you know, like,
Hey, at 5 a.m. on the street, you will
5
find typically a white lady, like doing her jogging thing.
Yeah.
You know?
So it I think is that somehow has kicked in. Like there's the sense that there is not enough daylight and all that stuff. So they wake up as soon as there's some sign of daylight, they wake up and get it done. While in Africa, the daylight is longer, so the planning is different. I don't know. That's just a theory I'm throwing out there or something. That's
very interesting theories, man. I really appreciate your input. Very good stuff.
Diego, nice to meet you again and all that stuff.
Yes, we got Diego Ife in the building. Salute to Diego, man. How you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you doing? How's everyone doing on the panel?
Yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, we're good.
Cool,
I'm good.
Cool. Good to hear.
So,
good to hear.
Yeah, I know we've probably, there's multiple topics at hand, but what's on your mind? What kind of grabbed you to jump on?
I mean, to be honest, there's a few things that kind of came to my mind. Certain things that I heard you sort of speak about, or sort of stuff that you showed, some of the clips. In no particular order. So the first thing I was going to say is, I think is it Stephen Webb? Am I saying his name correctly?
I think it's Simon Webb.
Simon Webb, that's it.
History Debunked.
Yeah, him. I found it quite interesting that he's familiar with those quirks, those black quirks. And I must have said in the comment section, I'm not sure if you flashed it up or flagged it, but he may have had swirling experiences. So he may have dated a black woman for a time, and or might have even went to a black church. Probably, I would say it was easy. There's enough black women that would entertain him, right? Just because obviously he's got a pulse and he's white. And yeah, in doing so, you notice that a lot of black people love to do ethnocentricity with white people. So it's almost like we do this and we do that and we use this word and it means this and it means that. You understand? So probably in the course of trying to play up to him and perform their culture or blackness or what have you to him, he would have picked up on certain things, and then he probably looked at it. And like I said, I'm just kind of going by certain hunches. I don't obviously have all of, can't read his mind, but I would say that he, like I said, knows those quirks. He had ammunition, and he's also kind of playing up to his sub base as well. Because one thing I'll say is this: like, I'm cool all day long. I'm sure I've probably made that clear to a lot of people. I'm cool all day long with critiquing certain habits that might be present, or commonplace among black people, associated with black people. I have no problem with it. But then I'm also sensitive and circumspect when you'll have certain racists or right wingers who will capitalize on certain things and try to transform context to suit their narratives. So I always try to find like a balance. So yeah,
absolutely.
To that end, I just think that he was, trying to hit the algorithm, trying to maximize his views. He'll probably get a fair few views for it.
But saying that then, do you completely disagree with what he said though? Because I think that is that is the thing that grabbed me, because I want to disagree with someone who has certain views and, like you said, has certain kind of dispositions where kind of disingenuous and just trying to add fuel to the fire. But do you disagree basically with what he said about black people time, colored people time?
No, I mean, look, it is part of the popular culture. I'm not going to deny it. Black time has been a thing from when I was a child till now. I'm not even going to joke. I used to hear it more so in a social context, not so much when it came to turning up for jobs, but more social outings. You understand? People who will think it's okay to turn up an hour late, or someone that might turn up very late on a date just because they just don't take time seriously unless they absolutely have to. I don't think, this is the thing about value and time. I think that there's a lot of people you can make a case do and don't value their time. I don't think it's peculiar or, black specific, but I'm not going to deny that it just seems to be something that, like I said, is part of the culture. Like, I remember there was a documentary years ago about the Lagos Fashion Week. It must have been maybe either side of 2010, that kind of era. And the Lagos Fashion Week, I think, didn't start for like 4 hours. 4 hours after it was scheduled
4
to
hours
start.
after the schedule.
Yeah, 4 hours.
Damn.
Yeah. So I mean, in the end, obviously they managed to make the most of the event and stuff. But yeah, and the woman was a white woman. She was like the narrator, you know, see, for the documentary. Sort of woman that was on ground doing the interviews. She was perplexed because obviously she knows people can be late. There's a thing called fashionably late, which is not black specific either. But this was like nothing she'd ever seen or come across. So she asked them, what's going on here? What's this? And then they said, you don't know, this is African time. This is Lagos time. So, you know, from there I said, okay, you know, so it's part of the popular culture.
I get that a lot from white South Africans, to be honest. White South Africans who, when they express their kind of views, and a lot of it's guarded as well, they're trying to be politically correct as well. But a lot of it is them, you know, expressing those type of ideas when they're describing black South Africans, like, oh yeah, you know, they really take their time with this, you know, they're just different, you know what I mean? It's you know, but you can tell that these people, that you can tell that they're expressing frustration, like those with the, you know, canny ear is frustration. Right?
They're trying to be politically correct, right? Almost kind of coping strategy by saying, you said something that brought something to my mind. I think it might be like in that context, it's cultural. So this idea of, you know, early bird catches the worm, you know, the corporate hustle, you know, get it in, you know, da. As much as many black people globally have become more kind of hyper consumerist, they still don't necessarily have that kind of like, what's the word, like hustler kind of spirit of waking up early. You understand? There's a lot of people, you know, you have the island mindset, for example. And when I say island, it's not specific to it's not specific to like the Caribbean, for example. I'm talking about literally just that person that likes to just chill. They'll wake up. They might, you know, sleep in one of them kind of outdoor kind of like, how do I explain it now? You know, those, oh God, I forgot what it's called, but it's literally like a bed. The strings are tied to 2 trees. A hammock. A hammock. God bless you, hammock. So they sleep in a hammock, get up, you know, to like a warm kind of, you know, but cool breeze. You know, things look scenic. There's palm trees in the backdrop. You know, all that kind of thing. There's certain people that they think that life is just there to, you know, just be easy. And at the end of the day, it's something that they've been doing. It's something that, you know, it's been happening in their family for generations. They've been able to find a balance to survive, albeit they're not materially, you know, what's the word I'm looking for here? You know, materially endowed by Western standards, but they're content. So it could come to that because among black South Africans are not entrepreneurial as culturally speaking. You know, there's certain groups that are like almost like associated with trade or even trade in particular goods, right? They're not synonymous with that. Like, you know, even in like your post-apartheid era, like, you know, see, the white South Africans have been the ones that have continued to accrue the capital accumulation and, you know, see,
I can see that just going off of a hunch, like by geography, you know, for example, if you're a culture, you got a big river that extends into other people's nations, you're going to be more likely to want to trade, right? Versus a person that lives in an open country, you know, it's like flat land and you probably dominated it. It's like, some people are probably more attuned to trading and traveling and journeying out. Probably some people much less. Yeah, exactly. So this is the reality, like, and that's why when it comes to in quote black people, the different cultures, different worldviews that have a material effect on people's like life outcomes. So yeah, I think it's literally like a culture kind of chasm or clash. And then I'd also say as well that,
if you take it out from the South African context, in some cases, some people who do end up going late for certain things, it can be down to, I'm not saying this excuses it, but if we're looking for explanations, these are possible explanations. They may have acute social anxiety, you know, or they may have, you know, if it's in the context of something economically related, whether that's pitching, turning up late for a pitch for a business idea or, you know, business project you're trying to get off the ground, or turning up for, I don't know, job or internship, whatever it might be, right? In some cases, it comes down to imposter bias. You understand? And in some cases, that imposter bias is almost like it's something which has been almost fed into them by like, almost like drip feed from when they were younger, whether that was family or significant others. They just came from an area and a kind of community which had lowbrow expectations. So then their lateness or tardiness is literally a reflection of, like, you know, I shouldn't be here. I'm just going to kind of just see how far I can go along the line. And, you know, somehow, do you understand? It's almost like they're inhibited. So it looks late, but it's literally because of that. So, yeah, I think it really, you know, context is everything. It doesn't excuse it. And yes, there is, you know, just to kind of reiterate, there is the popular culture aspect, which has kind of popularized lateness, or at least made it seem more socially acceptable than it should be, or left room for people to draw that kind of conclusion. But yeah.
Great points from both Diego and Darth Raven. Good to have you on. I want to ask JM. I mean, you know, we're kind of almost diagnosing why this might be a reality, why different cultures, different people might experience time differently. But do you think, I guess, speaking specifically for Black British people, that we should be sympathetic to the Black person who, you know, likes to show up fashionably late or doesn't see it as being too serious or that big of a problem? Should we be a bit more sympathetic and understanding, or is it something that should be totally scrubbed out of the kind of culture and the mindset, in your opinion?
It really depends on the setting. If it's, for example, obviously like business, work, employment, yeah, of course, like that shouldn't really be tolerated. When I was working, I always make sure I'm on time, leave an hour before, leave an hour before, you know, I leave my house, make sure where if I am working at least 1 hour. If it's 1 hour away or whatever, just make sure there's that buffer of time where there's at least an hour before, and make sure that I'm ready. And then if I'm early, I'm early. If I'm late, I'm late, which doesn't really happen that much. And just plan your route. And then, so obviously there's certain things you can't have, you is out of your control. But for example, you know, traffic, so forth. Sometimes the train may be late, but I used Uber, so that just.
But you know, that is a good point, especially when we're talking about big cities like London. You know, traffic is inevitable. Traffic jams, delays, tube delays. It snows and the trains are going to stop. Strikes happening. So you know that is a thing, I guess.
But if I was to say as a social setting, let's say outside of work, then I would say yeah, but then it is better if you just, obviously just better that you just let someone know, hey, this is a specific time that this is starting and maybe ending, and then whatever time is best for you. Then I guess that works. But there's just certain things you've got to be on time for. Be on time for a date, obviously. Be on time for a funeral. You know, those type of things. But if it's more of a casual thing, then you know there may be exceptions to that. But it's really depend on the set. I can't really say it's a yes or no question, but I would say you've also got to take into consideration when you when you do something at a certain time or get somewhere at a certain time, you've also got to take into consideration how that may affect other people. right?
Mhm.
So that's really what I would say regarding that.
Right. Yeah, appreciate that from brother Diego. If we can raise the likes up, likes a little low, let's like the video. I think this was a very interesting, important, very niche stream, which is what I like to do. Appreciate everyone's support in the stream. I want to ask Diego and then go on to JM as well. Appreciate your points of view, JM. Diego, with this kind of, I kind of touched on, the idea that some black people see it as quote unquote being white. If you're doing certain things, you're being on time. I don't know, you're trustworthy, you're reliable. Like, do you find that to be a thing? Do you find that to be a kind of habitual behavior where it's like, oh, if you're on time, you're acting white? Or
Yeah, definitely. I think it comes back to this whole bigotry of low expectations, where black people, many black people, a critical number, I'd say, have internalized that they don't deserve better. So, as you said, it becomes a backhanded compliment where, it's like it's a euphemism or there's subtext when they say that, oh yeah, you look like you like white women or whatever, right? And really and truly, it comes down to almost like an inferiority kind of complex. That I think that it can be dissected, don't get me wrong, but if I was to, answer that like sort of high level, I'd say yes, an inferiority complex. And the reality is, and I think it comes back to identity, but for a lot of people, they don't really know how to plan, if that makes sense. Like their idea, it's almost like it's either I will just exist and wait till I die, kind of, just people waiting to die, like they're not doing anything, right? And then you'll have those
floating by.
Yeah. And then you'll have those people that want to be like a helter-skelter, like literally like a mouse on like a hamster on a wheel,
Right.
like rat race type, what the kind of life that embodies the rat race, and be through doing that acquire all kinds of like material goods and what have you, thinking that will give them contentment.
That's true.
And so I think that because you have those extremes, when it comes down to actually not doing either of those, so you value your time more, right? You're more introspective, you're more partial and malleable to self-improvement. These are things, you're setting standards. Those standards are meant to be atypical at best for black people. If at best they should be entirely absent, it's literally for white people. So this is, and it's problematic because, and that's why I said not all black people speak for all black people, because some black people, they don't like racism or discrimination because they believe that they can be just as good as anybody else of any other skin color, and that if they come up short, it's not based on race. Yeah, and that is how it should be. But there are other people that complain about it because they see it as like a role, like they're playing in this game they call life. That's the view that they take. So it's almost like if you're someone that has high standards, then you're almost like they feel like you're blowing their cover. They're maybe gonna have to do a rethink on their approach to things, and so of course you become the avatar. It may feel personal. It's not even necessarily personal, to be honest. It's just that in real time they're reevaluating their choices, or they feel like they're being forced to. You see my point? So yeah, apparently, for them, standards is the self-preserve of, I guess, white and I guess Asians. In the minds of other people. And I think it's also consistent with that whole thing about why can't we do generational wealth like them and all that kind of talk, right? Without again looking at like the nuances and the detail differences which characterize I guess between black people and them. That makes sense. And I don't think they do that as a way of like, okay, they are in quote winning, we need to catch up. Let's systematically look at everything they're doing and see what we can adopt. No, it's not that. They're put on a pedestal. They're not seeing, not, do you understand? They're put on a pedestal. So it almost becomes this thing where you're like, what I call it, like almost being masochistic. You're beating yourself up based on an ideal, which is just that. it's an ideal. So that's what it comes down to. And I would say, the idea of decentralizing things, people should just be the best versions of themselves. And, collectively speaking, if you add the sum up, like the sum total, it should improve the image, or, like the stereotypes would be
Yeah,
less
absolutely.
potent. Stereotypes would be
Absolutely.
less potent. So, I don't know. It's, yeah.
Yeah, great points. JM, like your same question to you actually. Like, is that your experience? Do you see people that are championing like poor behaviors as black and positive or fruitful behaviors as white? Like, is that your experience?
Yeah. That basically that's what let's say people in the States actually try to reverse with something called critical race theory, right? Where at the time where it's basically reverse, right, of basically it was seen as whiteness as bad and black people was good, right? That was what critical race theory in a way kind of was, and they tried to adopt that over here, try to teach that in schools. Obviously there was a reaction to that, but I would say, yeah, because when the way I noticed this, and it's not just black people who do it, it was also even some white people, right? Where even though I was British and and I was born here, for example, when there was times where I was speaking good English, right? None of the ghetto slang, none of the the yos, the bruvs, what's going on, fam, all of those stuff, right? They say, oh, you're acting white, right? But I'm like, how am I acting white if I'm British and I'm born here, right? So that's another thing, right? There was times where, let's just say, because the interesting thing is when I was born, right? When I was born, I have gone from upper class to middle class, right? So I've been in different circles. I've been in the low class, been in middle class, and I've been in the upper class, right? So me going into different classes, basically like a chameleon in a way, right? There's no problem with me fitting in with whatever class, right? Ainsley Harry actually lived about 5 or 10 minutes away from me, right? I've actually met him in person. But the thing is, it's like this idea that and Simon Webb said this, where he was saying that it's like blackness, it's almost as if it's a rebellion against the whiteness. If you on time, you're acting a specific way, which I think is very problematic, because being on time is not synonymous to just a skin color, right? It's just organization. That's all it is, really. Organization and time management, right? And that is concerning because, you'll hear some black people say, oh, hey, look, we need to build generational wealth. We need to be entrepreneurs sometimes. Oh, forget the 9-to-5 job, which is based on time, right? But they don't realize is when you actually leave the 9-to-5 job and you actually go on entrepreneurship, you have to be disciplined with time, right? So it's not really, it's not a really good argument, when I hear things like this, where if you do the opposite, it's bad. And in certain cases, when you do look at the black community, in certain aspects, yeah, like some of it is very backwards, right? For example, the underbellies at the underbelly of most communities stay as the underbelly. In the black community, the underbelly is at the surface, right? You got all your criminals. They're the ones who are put. Those are the ones who are elevated in the most, popular rappers. All those guys put at the top, right? Those are the guys who get the most recognition. Not necessarily let's say the intellect, right? Or those type of people. You're seeing it now, right? Because there was a shift, but I'll say that shift was probably due to I would say the diversity, this push for more black people television diversity, so seeing that now, but it's not a good argument when you hear that time, it's bad. At the end of the day, time is the only asset that runs out, and you've got to know how to use it. You've got to know how to leverage it. End of.
Great points, man. Great points. Thinking of time, because you brought up, in terms of your life, time and your life. Like, I kind of get the sense that a lot of people, I would say, I don't know, early 20s, there's a fear for growing up or growing older, right? Like, and this is where I think in many black communities, there's a disconnect or almost a hatred for older people. It's like, oh, you're an old head. What, you have no value. And I kind of think that, people who think in that way, who fear growing up, it's probably more so because they just are not good with time management. Because if we think of life in a very numerical way, right, where how you're living every day is what is going to account for your year. It's like your time management and life goes hand in hand, right? So if people are loafing around, not really being serious, just kind of, leisurely doing things at their own pace, they're going to reach a point in age where the result is going to show, right? And so I kind of see some correlation with, the fear for basically growing up with just not being productive and not having good time management, man. So, great points all around. We're coming up to the sweep point, 2:15. I think this was a great discussion. I appreciate everyone supporting in the chat, everyone viewing right now. I want to, I guess, ask both of you, since you're still on, just a quick thought on what you think about NatWest and their ability or decision to delete someone's account based on their points of view or political affiliations. I think JM unmuted first, so I think you want to quickly jump in, and then we come to Diego. What do you think about that?
Worrying. It started to resemble that. There is kind of giving me the social credit system vibes that you see in China, where you get rewarded for certain actions or sort of, but it's really like thought policing, right? It's like a social thought police system, right? Because it's like,
so I want to understand that, because I'm a bit ignorant to that. So it's like, based on what you do in your life, you get appraisal or you get kind of deducted points. Is that kind of what that is, a social credit system?
So a social credit system is basically where you may be restricted of certain things, or you be rewarded for certain actions that you take, right? This was heavily used during the pandemic for the Chinese to certain expense, which in a way kind of scares me. But that is kind of like a glimpse of what happened to Nigel Farage. But to be honest, I think that is really just happening with the higher elites. I don't really think that may...
Actually, though, when I was researching similar incidents, like a lot of like standard people have had this happen to them, Like Monzo, for example, a lot of a lot of different people have had this happen to them. Like their accounts have been deleted because of their points of view.
Wow. So that's basically thought
probably
policing.
Even more worrying.
I would say so. And this is another reason why I kind of keep my social media now. I just keep it very private, really. I realized 2019, very different time from 2019 pre-pandemic to now post-pandemic. Very, very different. But what I would say as well is I had, like, regarding political ideas, in regards to that, I used to have some wild ideas regarding like political, like even regarding certain black people, and this is just to do with like, and it was just imaginary stuff, right? So say for example, I have like imaginary idea, right, where, for example, I make a joke party, right? You'll say call it BLP, right? British Liberation Party, right? And then I say, oh, it was just a joke, it wasn't real. so on and so forth. And then let's just say if there's certain black people who don't like this country, right? And let's just say I'm a part of this party, right? And those black people need to be deported based off their views, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So example of, 2040, 2045. Oh, you don't like living here in this country. Oh, okay. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna take a mandatory DNA test. We're gonna see what that DNA tracks you to. Oh, we'll send you there, we'll deport you there, and we'll give you a whole bunch of money and you can live over there if you don't like living in Britain. Right? Me say something like that in a few years' time, even though it's a joke, not real, gonna get me cancelled. Buy it, done. Imagine that. Then your whole bank account shut down because you just said that.
Right.
Right? I think
serious.
That serious, right? And then that could branch into something like comedy, right? Because the thing is, it's like when you have let's say for example you have comedy is another thing that is in a way where you get away with saying stuff, right? Like you have imagination of just saying stuff that you wouldn't say in real life, right?
Right.
If they say something in comedy, oh, they're gonna cut that person's bank account down, or that guy's gonna be cancelled. So what's the point of comedy then?
I can see that happening, with the way like Netflix treated Dave Chappelle, the way that they basically canceled straight. You can see like, comedy was an area of entertainment where you could pretty much get away with anything. It's all satire, tongue in cheek, everyone's up for a laugh. But then, all this cancellation has affected even this area of entertainment that traditionally we have always accepted as, fair game.
Right. And before I end, so I can let Diego speak, is that this is why you have a lot of people who are now on social media, YouTube, who just don't show their faces. Because they may have a job, right? And let's just say they say something and they don't actually mean it, right? Boom, job done. Boom, bank shut down. You're screwed. Right?
Yeah.
People really don't like think about this, right? There's another reason why I had to change my name and a whole bunch of stuff on like YouTube channels and so on and so forth, because I just realized in 2019, the stuff you could say in 2019, you're not going to be able to get away with in 2023 and 2024. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm done with what I need to.
Yeah, great points, great input. Diego Ife, man, what do you think about the whole NatWest versus Farage situation? Do you think it's right, wrong?
So this is the thing. I think there was someone in the comment section a bit earlier, inflated ego. Obviously I've worked in the finance industry, sort of years, worked there for years, and every bank has its own kind of like, they publish this certain terms and conditions that essentially there's a disclaimer that they can revoke your accounts at any point based on if they believe that it goes against their interests, or they have the discretion essentially to shut your accounts down and give you notice to find alternative banking arrangements. So to a certain extent, it's not an entitlement for him to have the account. You understand? At the end of the day, he's an elitist, right? And he's banking in a royal bank, a bank which is basically people, if they're not the royal family, then it's people that are aristocracy of other countries, or gentry, like people that are very kind of connected, aristocracy, yada 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 yada. So he's not any of that. He is from, like, obviously he's from in quote good stock, but he's not that level. There's levels to this. So I'm sure, and he doesn't meet the banking criteria in any case anyway. So for the period of time that he has not met the qualification, I can make a strong case that the bank was actually extending goodwill, and that they believed, for reasons best known to them, that he had exhausted the well of goodwill. But essentially, because case in point for me, for example, right? I have like a Premier account, you understand, with the bank I bank with. Yeah. Although because I had to take some time out from work and sort of do my book and stuff, like my income levels dropped, I still have the account. Now, based on my turnover, they could theoretically revoke it, but you understand, as it is, they're cool with it. So I'm saying that, but that's not an entitlement. You understand? It's more so like they're just like, yeah, cool, no, don't worry, you can keep it. So it's a similar kind of thing. You know, many other banks that will be content to have them. So there's that. But if we're going to talk about people being censured or, you know, almost not able to air their views, I do get that argument. Like, you know, that's certainly one way that, you know, you can kind of, you know, take inference out from what happened. But for me, yeah, no. If we're talking about people being punished, this isn't the first time. It's not new that certain people get shut out from certain things because of certain views or politics they hold. There's so many examples of it. So,
but then who determines what is right and what is wrong?
well, at the end, that's a good question, and it's globalists. It's the people that pretty much run media, run, you know, big finance, big industry. You know, like people call it, is it BlackRock or whatever they're called, and various other institutions. They're the ones that ultimately set the agenda, like for, you know, political economy, you know, AI implications, blah 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 blah. It's there's nothing clandestine. I mean, there is, but there's nothing I'm saying is conspiratorial. It's in the public domain. So they're the ones that basically set the, you know, well, I say set the scene, if you will. Yeah, they're the ones that are responsible. So I think for the average person, depending on what kind of aspirations they have, it just makes sense to know what's going on in the world, so that they can navigate or maneuver accordingly. You know, that's what I would say.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely great. I was just saying, absolutely great points.
Okay.
Great points. Yeah. Great points from everyone who jumped on. I really appreciate you. We've just passed a sweet point, and this is where I start to get blurry vision, slurred speech. So I'm gonna kind of call it a night. I want to thank both JM Talks and Diego Ife. Unless you've got any like last things you kind of want to put out there that I've not that you've not been able to put out there, feel free to.
I haven't got anything to say.
Cool. Okay. Cool. With that being said, man, I appreciate you gentlemen jumping on as and when you do, always expanding the conversation. So I really appreciate you, and I hope to see you soon. So peace for now. And with that being said, with everyone who came through, you know, hit the like button, comment your thoughts, came up on the panel as well. I really appreciate all of you. You know, as always, Tuesday, Friday, expect live streams from 10 p.m. British Standard Time. I'm saying from 10 p.m., okay? So it can never really be 10 sharp. It can't be... It has to be okay? There's lots of preparation. You know, there's lots of things to prepare. When I do cam up, this is why sometimes I don't cam up, because it's just easier to, you know, to kind of streamline things. The information is more so important than to see my handsome face, you know what I mean? But yeah, so Tuesday, Fridays, live stream from 10. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. If you want to know about the Discord, check the description to the video below. But with that being said, gonna wish everyone a good night. Have a good weekend ahead. Peace.